if we could get started, one of the issues that you spoke of here, Mario, is the volatility of the Haitian government. Can you speak a little bit to the new government that we have now and how you expect, if any changes to happen in guaranteeing human rights in Haiti?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's better for me to speak Creole when it's sensitive for me to express my idea better. And then we have a lot of Haitian here. C'est vraiment difficile pour parler. Pas oublier son gouvernement qui sortit nos mauvaises élections. Et son gouvernement qui a imposé. Il faut nous clair sur ça. Son gouvernement que les États-Unis, M. Clinton, a imposé à Haïti.
It's a complicated and difficult question, but as a starting point, we need to start with the fact that it was a government that was not fairly, that came out of some bad elections and was literally imposed by the United States government.
Donc, peuple haïtien pas quoi en réalité et situation va changer. Et comme étant donné son peuple qui a habitué bataille, et nous faisons indépendance, nous faisons pile bataille, nous pensons à continuer dans la bataille. Et ça fait après semaine ça yo.
I don't want to miss anything. It's good. So the Haitian people aren't confident that the new government itself will really change things. But as we're a people that are used to fighting, we fought for our independence. We keep fighting against dictatorships.
Bon, mais c'est clair pour lui là, et je pense que c'est clair pour tout le monde. Ça peut être moi-même, moi t'ai dit dans la radio en Haïti, 5 mois de ça, tout le monde commence clair que nous avons avancé. Nous faisons pile bac, nous presque tourner dans la période du Valais.
It's become very clear to me, and we've been saying it for 5 months or more, that we're really going backwards. We've almost arrived back at the Duvalier era.
Et pas seulement exemple, nous connaissons la presse. Nous avons compté en pile pendant 5 mois, le gouvernement, M. Matéli, a combien de fois attaqué la presse? Et il mettait en pile de monde dans la presse qui vient menace et sous tête sur Goulia là. Par exemple, dans la radio Caraïbe, c'est la radio qui n'est pas d'accord, qui n'est pas d'accord avec Panama Niga, mais qui n'est pas d'accord avec elle, mais qui a pile pression pour le travail Goulia.
And I can just list off several examples over the last 5 months where members of the press have been attacked or intimidated by the government. One example is Radio Caraïbe, which is a radio station that's sympathetic to Madame Manigat, but it's under a lot of pressure to comply.
Et donc, ça c'est un aspect. Et par exemple, même promesse qui était faite par exemple pour moun, il y a 6 camps, il était dit t'a déplacé yo, il t'a baillé aux meilleures conditions et puis à l'autre côté parce que tu es sous place publique par exemple.
In our own work, there was a promise to close 6 camps and bring those people to better places. Because they were in public.
Il était dit de faire ça dans 100 jours, mais c'est plus que 100 jours et rien pour faire. Donc, drôle de choses, c'est qu'ils ont déplacé quand ça. Par exemple, un exemple, c'est quand Sylvio Attor, ils ont déplacé au Manu Militaire sans qu'ils n'aient pas baillé l'autre côté pour aller, et côté aller à Pimal.
And that promise to close the camps was within 100 days, and we're far beyond that, and that has not been done. In the few cases where the camps have been closed, for example, the Silvio Attor football stadium, they were just moved with force. The people were moved by force, and they didn't have an adequate place to go, and now they're even worse off than they were before living in the camps.
Vous m'avez connaître en passant. Là nous parlons tout à l'heure, nous dit que quand qui par exemple il était 1,5 million, qu'il y a environ et toute organisation a dit yo 600 000. C'est en réalité sont faits ça y est.
As we were talking before, they're at the high point. There's 1.5 million people in the camps, and now everybody agrees it's about 600,000.
Et côté moun ça y est qu'il y a. C'est ça question personne pas répondre. Ni OIM, toute organisation qui est en Haïti yo, ka bay aide pas dit qui boy yo.
And the question is, where do those million people go? And nobody can tell you. Nobody, not IOM, not nations.
Moi qui travaille avec eux, m'konn côté yo, yo dans la rue.
I, who work with them, know exactly where they are. They're living in the streets.
En pile là-dedans, allons l'autre camp.
Many of them went to other camps
Parce que pas jamais ba yo l'autre alternative pour yo aller l'autre côté.
because they never gave them any alternatives to go to better
Mais c'est
places.
des solutions que moun yo même yo chercher pour tête yo mette yo dehors avec zam.
That's what the people themselves, they found their own solutions. They were displaced with guns.
23 mai, année ça là, magistrat Delma aller dans 3 camps avec zam non mais avec un paquet de monde avec zam nèg qui repris de justice etc. Li mettez tout mettez moun yo dehors, li pas de côté yo parler, mettez yo dehors. Et gen moun qui blessé avec balle, gen moun qui prend coup, gen moun qui perd papier.
On May 23rd, the mayor of Delma just went into 2 camps with some thugs and some police and just moved everybody. Lots of people were beaten, some people were shot.
Ça c'est pas comportement gouvernement démocratique.
And that's not the comportment of a democratic government.
Et moi-même, expérience, j'étais petit, les Duvalier et t'as monté dictature là, m'a gagné assez l'âge pour me comprendre. Mais ça me comprend, l'histoire, c'est même qualité bagaille qu'a préfet encore.
I was too young to really understand what was going on when the Duvaliers were building their dictatorship, but I read history and I know what happened, and that's what I'm seeing again.
Marie, would you chip in here? Is there, do you see any hope with the new government in the human rights work in Haiti?
I think what I'd like to do is to frame it based on my perspective. I don't tend to comment on the politics of Haiti, but I would like to comment from my perspective in terms of what I see. And I comment from that from the perspective of a former state representative, of a former state, assistant state attorney general, and as a former state, as a former city prosecutor, county prosecutor. I comment on it from that perspective. I think everyone is entitled to their opinion. And I think that in a democracy, which is what we enjoy here, that we get an opportunity to have a diversity of opinion. And I think you're listening to one set of opinions. And I think if we were to select folks from various spectrums within the political spectrum in Haiti, you would be getting a variety of opinions. So I want to put it in that perspective. As a former state representative, I guess I can't sit here and not say, as a representative of my local government, that my government would have gone and kidnapped anybody. So I do challenge that characterization. So I do put that on the table. I think that there are various folks who would interpret those activities, and I wasn't there, so I can't say what happened in different ways. I would say that with respect to this government, I don't know them. I don't know what it is that they're necessarily doing on the ground. I do know that there were a number of people that went out and they cast votes. As we have cast votes in the past here, and perhaps are not happy with given what we're experiencing with in different elections, that there are elections that we went out and agreed with, and there are results that we do not agree with. But there were people that went out, and I watched them on TV, who actually went out and cast votes for the current election, for the current person that's elected in office in Haiti today. So I don't know that there was necessarily not an election, but there was an election. Now, whether or not one agrees with it or not, that is for those for folks like Mr. Mayo Joseph and others who went out and actually helped get people elected to speak to. I think that we have to look at these things within a larger context, because in Haiti there has been a systemic failure of a number of systems, whether it's the social system, the political system, the economic system, and the judicial system. And all of those are at play right now. And it is very difficult to pull all those pieces together and expect that then in 100 days, in 5 years, or maybe in 10 years, that you're going to see immediate change. And I would challenge anybody to take on that job. I think Obama's experiencing that after having a certain way of being, that it is very hard to turn any system around and to actually see real change. We're experiencing that in our own country. So I would challenge that. I have gone down and visited a number of the camps with the Red Cross and to see what some of the impacts were on families. It is a devastating place for people to continue to live year in and year out. What I do understand, based upon my conversations with our State Department, is that there have been many challenges. And part of the challenge is that there is no real land tenure system in Haiti. So it is very difficult to move anyone anywhere when nobody can tell you with any definitive who owns the land. The people who say they own the land, imagine if it was you, say that they want people who they've given the license to stay on their land for a period of time, now they want them off. Now, if it was government land, and we can establish there was government land, you can understand that there would be, people would say, why should we move these people off the land? But some of these folks, as I was there at one of the locations, one of the foremen for one of the owners of the land came up to speak to me. And he says, look, this is our land. We have allowed people to stay. They've dug latrines onto our land. They have continued to put all these, and he says, what would you do if this was your land? At what point would you be able to get it back? How do we get people so that we can get our own back? I told them there has to be a process. And my understanding is there's been a process put in place in some of the camps, I can speak to the one that I was in, where there are negotiations going on between the landowners and the people who live there, who are on the land, in order for them to collectively work to push the government to figure out a way to move them into some place that's better. Where do you move them to? They've built, I've gone out and have seen a number of properties where they put land way out. They've built these housings way out in the middle of nowhere, where there are no real systems in place, no sanitation system, no schools, no hospitals. And so you just build these things out of nowhere. They look like Home Depot, these things from Home Depot, those sheds is what I thought they looked like. And you want these people to move from where they are to go live out in the middle of nowhere without any real urban planning going on in order to show where they're going, how they're going to have a future for themselves and their family. I think I understand that it's just recently that we've had a prime minister in Haiti who's supposed to be the head of the government, and that is who is supposed to execute whatever those plans are. I suggest, since I think it's less than a month since this prime minister has been, I guess, ratified by the parliament, that we have to at least give some time for them to be able to work on this and at least begin to tell us how they're going to do that. So I can't sit in judgment today, less than a month later after the appointment of this person, to say that you must now have been able to move all these people off the land, when the gentleman who was there before, the former president, as I understand it, did not have a plan and did not necessarily do anything to make this any better. So I think that we have to have a wait and see. With respect to our communities, I agree with what we have to say, that the international community does have to respect the sovereignty of the Haitian state. And I think it's a delicate thing that we continue to fight with, because as I understand it, there are only 8,000 Haitian National Police that in order to be, as I understand it, that currently have been trained. I think the international community, working with the Haitian government, the former Haitian government, says they need about 14 or 20,000. And so they don't have enough forces to enforce civil law in order to protect people's security. I understand that that's part of the case. The other piece is that in the judicial system, as I understand it, the Palace of Justice, as I understand it, collapsed during the earthquake, and so that was gone. And so a lot of the folks who worked in the system disappeared also. So now they're trying to figure out, how do you rebuild that system, a system that wasn't functioning up to par even before the earthquake? So how do you get that going? And so I think there are a lot of challenges, real on-the-ground challenges, that are being struggled with within all the systems, the social, the political, the economic, and the judicial. And I think the pressure that Mr. Joseph and the Bureau des Avocats and IJDH is putting, I think that's very good pressure, because in any system, you need a counter pressure to keep the issue up in the air, and in order to push the agenda. I think it's important that we fund those kind of activities. I'm glad we have the folks sitting on over there, the Occupy Boston, as you say, because we need to challenge and ask questions, and somebody has to do that. So I'm glad that's being done. At the same time as that's being done, there has to be people willing to sit into a room who are willing to negotiate and negotiate with integrity on some very fundamental things in order to move that system to a better place. So I think all those different forces are important, but we have to also give some credence to the people who are going out there every day trying to make it work. Because I think there are legitimate people who are credible people from across the international space and in Haiti trying to make it work. And I've had the chance to work with them, and you've had a chance to work with them and see two of those gentlemen right here. So we have a lot of work to do.
At this point, we'll take a question from the audience, but before we do that, I'd like to acknowledge Alex Cantav, who is also a member of Advisory Council.
Thank you, Colonel. I listened carefully to the noble former rep that the occupiers of the tent of the land, they were. I'm asking a question. Can I ask a question?
So your name, please.
My name is Attor from FATEP. And could the Haitian government use eminent domain to use the land for the poor as needed? Why didn't they do that? Second point is the notion of justice. And grew up in Haiti and came here and became a lawyer. And I always know that justice is what in Haiti was never received. Can you guys talk about that? That you only pay to get justice. So I would like you to talk about the eminent domain, why the government doesn't use it. It's legal, eminent domain. Is the property private or public for the public good? Why could it be done? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we start with you?
Bon. Gen problème en Haïti, m'tend de l'empile, mais m'a pressé pour répondre à une question pour me dire son problème qui commençait depuis Haïti pays en 1804. Et eux même dit c'est ça même qui fait des salines mourir parce que le tap mandé terre pour moun esclave qui débattait avec.
So a lot of these problems of land that we're talking about have afflicted Haiti since 1804, since Haiti became a country, and in fact that contributed to the death of Dessalines because he was insisting on distribution of land to former slaves that followed him.
Et depuis le pays a commencé, il y a un petit groupe de monde qui a toute terre et un groupe de monde qui ne va jamais gagner. Ça c'est tout le temps comme ça en Haïti.
So there's always been a problem in Haiti where a small group had most of the land and most of the people had nothing.
Et à travers tout coup d'État, près de 33 qui fait en Haïti, chaque l'État qui bénéficie du coup d'État, yo prend terre. Et yo ba les amis yo terre.
So every time there's been a coup d'etat in Haiti, and there's been 33 of them, whoever won in that coup took the land for themselves and for their friends.
C'est pour me dire l'État pas besoin de prendre terre de force. Il y a la loi en Haïti qui permet l'État prendre terre, par exemple pour les combats d'intérêt public. L'État est capable de loi pour ça. Et de fait loi ça, l'État utilise déjà.
So you're right that the government doesn't have to seize the land by force, it can seize it by law. There's an eminent domain law that allows the government to take land for public interest.
Et yo fait li et pour en bas la ville parce que c'est grand nèg qui en bas la ville là. Ah, c'est ça. Yo fait li, grand nèg en bas la ville là, et bien yo déclaré en bas la ville là d'utilité publique.
There was a declaration, they did it for the wealthy people downtown where there was a decree saying that the land downtown was part of an eminent domain area.
Et pour moun pauvre pas faire rien. On garantit pas faire pour moun pauvre. Mais il y a une loi pour ça.
But they don't do the same thing for poor people.
Et comprendre ça en Haïti, c'est faut comprendre le problème d'exclusion en Haïti.
And you need to, understanding any questions in Haiti, you need to think about it through the lens of the exclusion in Haiti.
M'a dit tout simplement, et pour moun qui pas connaît l'histoire d'Haïti, avant nous te fait indépendance, et te gagné 3 classes en Haïti.
I'd like to just add for people who don't know that much about Haiti's history, before independence there were 3 classes in Haiti.
Te gagné colon français yo, te gagné affranchi yo qui c'est petite négresse avec blanc, et puis moun sont en Afrique yo esclave yo.
So there were the colonists who were white from France, and there were the freed people who were the children of a colonist with an African native, and then the third were the people from Africa.
Et plan mulatio affranchi yo, c'était mettre blanc au dehors, mais pour te kembe esclave, ça fait aux États-Unis tout. Ça fait aux États-Unis tout.
The plan of the mulattoes was to push the white colonists out, but to keep themselves in that place.
Mais plan c'est pas de changer la situation nèg noir esclave yo.
But their plan was not to change the basic situation of the slaves.
Et c'est ça qui continue à faire en Haïti depuis 1804 jusqu'à aujourd'hui.
And that's what's been happening in Haiti since 1804 right up to today.
Et chaque monde, haïtien ici, haïtien l'autre bord, chaque monde a bon littérature. Mais c'est ça le problème non.
There's lots of been writing about Haiti, but that's the real problem right there.
Pour qui ça? OK. Pour gen coulier a, gen 40% de monde qui gen l'âge pour aller à l'école, yo pas qu'à aller dans la rue.
So 40% of kids who are of primary school age don't go to school. They're on the streets.
C'est pas problème logement seulement, c'est problème droits humains en Haïti.
So it's not just proper or housing problems. It's a broad spectrum of human rights.
Je connais, d'accord. Système justice corrompu. Système justice corrompu, oui. Et il pas marché pour le monde pauvre.
I agree that the Haitian justice system doesn't work and that it's corrupt, but it mostly doesn't work for poor people.
Et yo kembel comme ça, yo vle comme ça.
They keep it like that. They want it to be like that.
Et parce que si le comme ça, il y a toujours kembel même standard vie par yo. Il y a toujours différence dans la classe là.
Because the people who are controlling things will be able to maintain their way of life and their lifestyle by controlling the system.
Et m'entend pile causer, mais toute ces hypocrisie oui. M'entend pile causer, toute ces hypocrisie, problème yo là. Pour qui c'est grande majorité monde yo. Bien contre la question, il y a une loi pour ça. Yo prend loi pour en bas la ville pour grand nèg yo. Pour que pas prendre loi pour faire terre pour l'autre monde yo. La loi là.
I hear a lot of talking about solutions to Haiti's problems, but most of it is hypocrisy because it keeps coming down to the same issue of exclusion that people ignore. And your question is a good one because why can you do eminent domain for wealthy business owners, but you can't do it for poor people?
Qui t'aime dire dans même sens là, yo gagne EPPLS. EPPLS vous connaissez, c'est sous Duvalier, oui, créé le 6 décembre 1982. C'est entreprise promotion de logements sociaux.
So there was an example. There was a agency called the EPPLS, which was a social housing agency created by Duvalier.
C'est un organe qui légal. Pour que tout le monde cap bay kob yo pas passer par lui. Moi même parler avec directeur, personne pas dans côté. Soit dans bureau côté PPLS là. C'est bon moment pour PPLS jouer rôle comme organe qui fait logement sociaux parce que problème canal pas fait pour monde pauvre. C'est problème ça, c'est simplement ça.
And so Mario talked with the director of that organization, which is legal, it's there, and he said none of the money that's coming into Haiti for housing ever goes through him.
Bon, ça m'entendait. Haïti pas de terre, et pas de cadastre, pas de rien, et tout le monde allait parler avec avocat grenègue, mais pas jamais parler avec l'autre monde qui dans le sens monde pauvre.
And so there's a lot of talks about the problems with with land and with land registration, and they're real problems. But when you really talk to the poor and take the part of the poor, there are solutions.
Et excusez-moi, permettez-moi, un dernier bagaille. Et moi-même, je n'ai pas de statistiques, mais à partir de ça, je fais 70% de côté mounio, c'était l'État. 70%.
Okay, I don't have the statistics to prove this, but my understanding is that 70% of the land where people are living in camps is government owned.
Et conseil de bagaille pas dire comme avocat, même les mounio qui qu'on a demandé une négociation, comme étant donné c'est pas travail moi, même connaît, moi dit et me répéter 70% de côté mounio qui ont dit c'était privé, c'était l'État. Il suffit que l'État seulement besoin vérifier titre.
And, you know, it's not exactly the work I do. A lot of people come to me with questions about land titles. But what I say, so I don't know for sure, but I say all the government needs to do is to go to court and to verify their land titles.
Now, we'll have to, one of the things, I don't want to constrain your answers, but we'll have to try and keep them short, and so that everyone on the panel can get a chance to participate, and also that we can take more questions. We'll go with the lady in the blue and Pastor Adrian after that.
So my name is Sarah Hendrick. Bon, your question par là, c'est est-ce qu'on peut parler plus de gens nous traiter caillou dans le bureau? Par exemple, vous mentionnez que nous avons poursuivi des cas contre l'ancien président Duvalier. Est-ce que, et que vous pensez qu'il est juste, parce qu'il y a des cas de, and I'll translate after, des cas de violation, c'est évident. Mais est-ce que nous avons parlé de qui nous évaluer pour nous poursuivre ça, alors qu'il y a des cas aussi de violation qui passaient sous l'autre président. Donc, on apprend Aristide, par exemple, qui en Haïti, on connaît un cas contre Cédras, etc. So, est-ce qu'on peut parler de procédure qui nous évalue ça? So the question basically was, how do they evaluate prosecuting cases against one president, Duvalier is in this case, versus other violations that are stated that have happened under other presidencies?
Bon.
Thank you, but in the future we'll keep Brian will translate.
Ok. Bon, et tout cas c'est cas, depuis qu'il y a violation de la moun, c'est violation de la moun n'a pas allé. Et tant que j'en ai allé dans le dossier Duvalier. Par exemple, Duvalier, les Duvalier retournaient, et tout le monde connaît toute pile de violation qui est faite. Et nous avons demandé, Mali Canada, aux États-Unis, tout, en Haïti, nous avons dit non ouvrir. Si il y a des gens qui ont besoin de porter plainte, et pour Duvalier, nous ouvrons pour ça. Des gens qui.
So it's a good question, and our position is all cases are cases. If there's a case against somebody, then it needs to be pursued. And in our case, when Jean-Claude Duvalier was returned to Haiti, there was a lot of evidence about his crimes, and we traveled around. We traveled to Canada, the United States, and talked to people in Haiti.
Et il y a des gens au Canada qui sont d'accord et qui ont plainte, nous préparé, nous portons les gens aux États-Unis, tout, les gens en Haïti. Tout.
And so we've gotten people from all three of those places, Canada, the U.S., and Haiti, who wanted us to file complaints on their behalf.
Et nous poursuivons Kassayo pour que le jugement arrive fait. Et
we'll pursue that case so that the trial can be had.
Et en réalité, en Haïti, il y a un paquet de violations de droits qui est fait. Et sous quel gouvernement capable de prendre, parce qu'en réalité, respecter les droits c'est pour moi qui est trop facile pour le gouvernement en Haïti.
And the reality is that there's lots of human rights violations under pretty much any government. That the reality is that respecting human rights is not something that governments in Haiti have found easy to do.
Bon, nous-mêmes, j'en ai choisi Kanoyo, ou bien j'en ai fait, nous travaillons pour plus de monde qui peuvent. Mais il y a des fois, nous pouvons changer de travail. Nous. Par exemple, en 2004, je vais expliquer ça.
Okay, our basic principle is that we tend to work for the poorest, and sometimes we change our priorities.
Et par exemple, en 2004, nous avons fait dossier pour des gens qui étaient ministres, premiers ministres, et tant que Yvonne Neptune, Père Jean-Just. Mais c'est des gens qui sont capables de justifier tête nous. Par exemple, Père Jean-Just. Père Jean-Just sont des gens qui tapent bail, si gens qui sont pauvres, et me connaissent côté ça. S'ils ne peuvent pas manger, pas manger pour manger. Donc c'est une partie de notre travail. Nous aider Père Jean-Just dans le dossier ça.
And sometimes we've been working for, we represent people who aren't poor, and two examples were in 2004 we represented Father Gerard Jean-Just and former Prime Minister Yvonne Neptune. And in Father Jean-Just's case, we did it because he was someone who was advocating for and literally giving food to the poor. And so we felt that by representing him, we were allowing his work to continue.
et te une déviation tout dans la démocratie et quand tu as un pile prisonnier politique et je pense que c'est un combat qui était correct et nous te travaillons pour des gens qui semblaient que tu gagné un standard de vie mais pièces clients n'ont pas jamais payé nous.
And there was also, at that time, also a lot of political prisoners, so we took some high-profile prisoners who were wealthier than most of our other clients, but we felt that was part of fighting for the whole political prisoners.
Bon, et si gagne
And he said, none of our clients pay us.
et si gagne des autres violations de droits monde et qui documenté et nous pensons lui répondre avec travail, nous on a fait.
And if there are in any case, if there are other violations of human rights, and people have the evidence and they come to us and ask us to do it, we'll do it.
Mais certaines fois, il y a des amalgames tout. Nous pas trop. Comment amalgame? Il y a des amalgames tout. Nous pas voulons nous faire. Et entre différents gouvernements. Même presque sûr.
False equivalency.
Okay, thanks.
Ok.
So some people try to do false equivalencies between different things.
Bon. Et sous certains gouvernements, je ne pas croire qu'à comparer violation qui fait sous gouvernement Jean-Claude Duvalier avec différents gouvernements qui étaient passés. Et pas après Duvalier.
And I don't think you can do an equivalency between the level of human rights violations that happened under Duvalier with subsequent governments.
Bon, moi-même, je suis capable dans certaines périodes de temps il y a certains progrès qui t'a fait et en termes de droits de l'homme.
And I see there has been, in fact, some progress in terms of human rights.
Donc, nous-mêmes nous disponibles depuis ces côtés questions nécessaires, c'est les gens qui peuvent et nous aider pour respecter les droits.
And we're ready in just about any case to, if it's poor people are asking us to help them, to help them.
Bon, moi-même, par exemple, pour mon Duvalier, c'est vrai, moi, par exemple, il y a des gens qui vivent aux États-Unis, haïtiens qui peuvent tout. Par exemple, j'aime te dire, à Miami, mon client, même si le client, ça, c'est mon client qui a payé avocat. Qui a payé avocat.
And so, for instance, we've got there's Haitians that are poor in the United States. I've got one client on the Duvalier case I'm sure he actually could pay a lawyer.
Bon, ça, moi-même, confortable avec Canonien, c'est des gens qui vraiment pas de moyens.
But we work mostly for people who don't have any means.
Just so you know, we're running out of time. We would have time for about 2 more questions. We'll go with Pastor Vedrin and Jack.
Well, thank you. I'm Soleil Vedrin. I'm a Haitian pastor here. I have been very illuminated, and I think by your expose, and I appreciate your concern and your involvement. My question is, has your office ever presented a proposal to the Justice Department or to the executive branch on what would be a fair approach to those issues?
And are you talking about the Haitian government or the U.S. government?
No, the Haitian government, the Justice Department in Haiti, or the executive branch in Haiti, on what could be a fair legal approach to those issues.
Yeah. Moi-même, depuis que je suis bureau, dans l'année, généralement, je viens 1 mois après Brian, en juillet. Je commence en juillet, je commence en juin, je commence en juillet. Presque chaque mois, nous avons rencontre avec le ministre de la Justice.
So since I've been working in the office, and I started in July of 1996, at the beginning at least, every month we'd have a meeting with the Ministry of Justice.
Il y a certaines fois, par exemple, pour le ministre qui était déraillé en termes de violation de droits de l'homme, nous n'avons pas même besoin de faire effort. Parce qu'ils ont déjà déraillé, mais ça nous pas fait. C'est un coup de par exemple. Nous n'avons pas de jambes pour elle.
Can I get some help with déraillé?
Darrell.
So there have been some ministers during that time that have been derailed in terms of their respect for human rights, and we didn't think there was any point in meeting them.
Oui, nous toujours fait ça. On partit le monde qui ministre coulière là, c'est bons amis, elle était travaille dans le dossier Raboto à cause nous-mêmes notre balle formation était venu, monde qui ministre coulière.
And the current Minister of Justice, who just started, he's actually a friend of mine, and he's someone who we worked with very closely on the Raboteau case. We helped him out then, and we've always been working with him since.
Il était directeur général, nous toujours par le conseil, ministre, Magloire, etc. Chaque mois, nous briefing, yo, et qui ça pour faire. Mais en plus de ça, je parle dans la radio, je parle dans la télévision. Ça nous baille comme méthode, nous dit ouvertement pour permettre de résoudre ce problème système.
And he used to be the Director General of the ministry. We meet with him almost every month. And I also speak on the radio and television about justice issues.
Thank you.
One of the things, it's looking forward, the reconstruction of Haiti, this process that's going on right now. There has to be, in my understanding is that it has to involve the international community, also calling for a process that adopts a rights-based approach as well. Now, how do you see, and I'll start with you, Larry, how do you see, what's the role here in terms of the international community and tailoring its process so that it really digs into solving human rights issues in Haiti looking forward?
Well, I think to the extent that's possible, a lot of the training and capacity building that's been discussed, whether it be continued support so that you develop a civil police force that understands its rights, its responsibilities towards its citizens. I think to the extent that we continue to provide that kind of support, I think that is healthy. Where you are accompanying that particular enforcement arm of the state in order to help them function better, I think that is very helpful. I think the other piece is some clarity to the extent that we can help the Haitian judicial and enforcement system bring some clarity around investigations because it's not clear. There's so many different factions, whether it's a magistrate that investigates, whether it's the police that investigates, whether it's the prosecutor that investigates. Everybody's in charge, no one's accountable. And so it would be great to sort of help with those systems in order to at least have the yes in charge, but accountability also clear so that citizens will understand how they can better have their rights enforced. So I think to the extent that we can help with those systems there, that would be wonderful. The other thing is with respect to the training that continues to happen on the judicial side, I think we do provide a lot of funding in order to support that. The international community does. To the extent that we can continue in that work to support helping, because I don't think they have enough, doesn't sound to me that they have enough judges to staff the various levels of the judiciary currently. And so to the extent that that can be done and we can continue to support that, I also think that would be helpful. The other piece is, and that's on the, because you have to stabilize the judicial system so that when people bring in their cases, that they feel that it is going to be heard with the respect with the neutrality that the judicial system requires. I think in Haiti, it's been documented that the executive branch, as well as the parliamentary arm of the state, has had too much influence over the workings of the judiciary system. And so to the extent that the independence of the judiciary system can be supported more clearly in Haiti, I think that is something that we can do. Now, once you do that, then some of the things that have been discussed where the contractual rights can be respected, I think the contractual rights both of the employee, the employer, and then in business, you then create a climate for people to feel more comfortable about coming in, investing, and understanding that there would be a place for them to resolve their differences. I think once you do that, a lot of the human rights violations that you do see, for example, a lot of the women that I went to see while I was down there spoke to me about the fact that they would go to the police department after they had been violated because they're living in these tents, they're violated, and they're living next to their perpetrators. and then they go to the police department, and in my mind, they're further violated because the police department gives them a complaint form. My understanding, this complaint form, sometimes they have to go make a copy of themselves of the complaint form to fill it out, so that they can come back and give it back to them. Now, if I'm a woman, who's just been violated, can you imagine the trauma of having to go to that, usually they're men, having to then just expose yourself in that way, and then be told, oh, sorry, we can't help you. Take this form, you go make a copy of it, fill it out, and bring it back. So we lose a lot of our victims that way. And so to be able to sort of provide some assurance in order on the police side, they need to train and have more women involved in this particular end of the spectrum, to train women to deal with domestic violence, to deal with sexual violence that is happening in those camps, in order for these women to be able to come out. Moreover, once you find the perpetrator, to be able to take them out of the camp and put them in a place where at least their own rights will be protected, because we have to protect both rights, that of the victim and that of the perpetrator. And as I understand it in Haiti currently, you can stand arrested at a police station and be there held for about a year and never see a judge, never be charged, and so you're just sort of sitting there. So there can't be any reliability in the system unless we streamline that. Moreover, as I understand it, there are people in pretrial detention sitting in jail in Haiti right now, some of them for at least 5